you know, it's a little bit sad that we almost talk about the comeback of the BlackBerry when a lot of business people got rid of it just a year ago.
Yeah.
Right? Is it too soon for it to make a comeback?
Well, I think when you say comeback in BlackBerry, you really have to temper your expectations. BlackBerry is not aiming to be the BlackBerry of 2009 or 2010, where it's, you know, has a huge share of the overall smartphone market. BlackBerry now is really aiming to own that niche area in enterprise usage and to really be the go-to device and the go-to service in that area. So it's really kind of pulling back from a lot of the more mainstream consumer marketing efforts that it did a few years ago to really focus on that area.
What is the unique selling point to the enterprise market of a BlackBerry? Is it the keyboard? Is it security? What is it?
Well, for users, the keyboard is still a very high priority for certain users. But definitely for IT departments, the security is by far the biggest selling point for BlackBerries. They're still by the gold standard in security, and neither the iPhone and especially not any of the Android competitors come even close to it. Probably the closest competitor is actually probably Microsoft with its Windows phones, and not really because of the security effort there, but it's more because of the extra services like Office, etc., that Microsoft have that those companies already will be taking. So for BlackBerry, it's much more a question of, you know, really honing in on those services, on its security, on its device management services to really build its customer base.
I mean, if you were in charge of BlackBerry, what would you do, you know, differently? This is a classic. Does it need to look cooler? Does it need to look different? Okay, people like the keyboard. That's what we liked it. But, you know, can they keep it classic and innovate?
Yeah. Well, of course, BlackBerry released the Passport device, you know, a few months ago, which looked radically different and had that new and innovative look and feel to it. So this, I think they're trying to pair it with, they have their new and, you know, shiny looking Passport device, but they also have this more old school looking device, which is very easy for people to get to use quickly, which is, you know, when you're talking about enterprise use, that's a big asset, because, you know, these are devices which they do not want to be in the way of productivity. They want to enable productivity. So the more easy it is to use, the more intuitive it is to use, the quicker it is for a person to pick it up and use it, the better.
How big of, what is the market value for BlackBerry in this niche enterprise space? Like, what are we talking about in terms of how much money they can actually make at the top line?
Well, in terms of, say, unit shipments for smartphones, our forecasts generally have BlackBerry going in around 5-6 million units out into 2018-2020. It's not a huge number, but it can be sustainable, particularly when it is paired with that services portfolio. Like, BlackBerry is really going to live and die about whether or not it can keep, you know, the very large enterprises.
So it's not a hardware company anymore. It's
not really. Like the devices are very much like an aside to its main thrust going forward is very much going to be those software and services.
President Obama uses a BlackBerry. I think Angela Merkel still has a super duper
for the security point of view.
Enhanced BlackBerry. Exactly. Is this a selling point? Is this probably the strongest selling point, just security?
Security is by far the strongest selling point of BlackBerry at the moment, for not just for the devices but for their overall network and ecosystem, and they use that to not only to sell the devices, but as I said, particularly like they have a device management portfolio for managing other enterprise Android devices or iPads or iPhones as well. So like they're branching out and supporting these other devices because they realise that not everybody wants to have a BlackBerry device all the time.
As we see, and we're going to talk about it in a moment, we're going to talk about Sony in just a moment and the hack that happened on that company and the ramifications of that. Every time that such a case happens, does it just reinforce the proposition for this company?
I think it does and it doesn't, because it also puts it up on a pedestal in many ways. And if you go back a few years ago, there were some problems with the BlackBerry network. There was an outage in the BlackBerry network a few years ago. Exactly. And because BlackBerry had been so known for its reliability and for its security, the fact that there was an outage was a massive, massive deal. So, you know, it's good and bad. You know, obviously you want to have the reputation, but it means as soon as there's the slightest problem, people start questioning you.
Daniel, thank you so much. Daniel Gleeson, their IHS Senior Technology Analyst.